When I first heard someone moving into the apartment next door, I didn't think much of it. Happens all the time. The building's old, the walls are thin, and people come and go like clockwork. I was more annoyed about the noise. Boxes scraping across the floor, feet stomping back and forth, than I was curious about who it might be. Then I opened my door to grab the food I ordered, and nearly dropped the bag when I saw him. Mason, as in Mason Blake, my high school rival. The guy that first spent 4 years trying to outdo in literally everything. Debate club, track meets, class rank. Even freaking senior superlatives, where he snagged most likely to succeed, while I got most likely to marry a celebrity, which still pisses me off. He was standing there, shirt slightly damp from the move, lifting a box marked kitchen. And when he looked up and saw me, "Oh, hell no," I muttered, loud enough for him to hear. He squinted, then his expression shifted. "No way. Oliver?" I didn't answer, just stared. He looked the same but older. Taller, broader shoulders, same cocky smile that made me want to shove him into a locker back in the day. "Oliver James," he said again, stepping forward. "Man, that's been what? 6, 7 years?" "7," I said flatly. He gave a slow, amused nod. "Damn, this is wild. What the hell are you doing here?" I asked. "Moving in," he said, as if it were obvious. "Apartment 407. My stomach sank. "I'm in 406. His smile grew. "Well, would you look at that? Neighbors." And just like that, my peaceful little one-bedroom existence turned into a daily test of patience. I tried to pretend it wasn't a big deal. We were adults now. Whatever high school drama we had was ancient history. But Mason didn't make it easy. The man was loud. He played music while he cooked. He laughed too hard at whatever show he was watching. He had a tendency to sing in the shower, and not well. And I could hear everything through that goddamn wall. The next morning, I saw him in the hallway again, freshly showered, holding a to-go coffee cup like he owned the world. "Hey, neighbor," he said casually, as if we were old friends instead of sworn academic enemies. I nodded stiffly. "Morning." He tilted his head. "Still a morning grump, huh?" "I wasn't a grump. You were just obnoxious." He laughed like I made his day. "Fair enough." I tried to ignore the way he smelled, some mix of clean laundry and overpriced cologne, and walked past him without another word. But I could feel him watching me all the way down the hall. The weirdest part? He started showing up. Not in any obvious way, just little things. Bumping into me in the laundry room. Asking if I wanted to split an Uber Eats deal. One night, I came home late and found a post-it on my door. "Your Wi-Fi's name Mason sucks." Real mature, dude. "Want a split pizza?" 407 inches. I stared at the note for a long time before laughing despite myself. "And maybe, just maybe," I texted him. "Only if you're paying." He was at my door in 10 minutes, holding pizza, and smiling like he knew he was winning. I told myself it was just pizza. 2 grown men eating greasy food on a Thursday night wasn't a big deal. People do it all the time. Neighbors. Former classmates. Ex-arch-enemies. Totally normal. But when Mason sat on my couch, legs spread, one arm draped over the back like he'd made himself at home, I felt like I was walking into something I hadn't agreed to. "You still fold your pizza?" he asked, watching me with that same amused expression he always had back in high school, like I was some quirky riddle he half enjoyed solving. "Yeah," I said, taking a bite. "And you still drown yours in ranch?" He grinned, lifting his slice like a toast. "Some things never change." The conversation flowed easier than I expected. Too easy. It started with small talk. Work, the building's slow elevator, mutual high school friends we didn't really miss, and drifted into late-night territory. That odd, personal space where words feel heavier because the lights are lower and you've already eaten too much. He looked at me at one point and said, "You know, I always thought you hated me." "I did," I said without thinking. He laughed, nodding like he deserved it. "That checks out. But not in the way you think." That surprised him. "Oh," I didn't elaborate. How could I explain it? That competing with him made everything feel more electric. That I couldn't tell whether I wanted to beat him or get closer. that there were nights in high school when I lay awake wondering what it'd feel like if he weren't my rival. Mason leaned forward to grab another slice, and his knee brushed mine. Neither of us moved. His fingers hovered near mine for half a second too long. And in that half second, the air shifted. I saw something flicker in his expression. Uncertainty, curiosity, maybe even intent. But just like that, it was gone. He sat back, finished his food, and let the moment pass. By the time he left, I was wide awake, staring at the closed door, wondering what the hell I'd just walked into. The next few days blurred. We kept seeing each other. In the hallway, on the stairwell, once at the corner coffee shop where I pretended I didn't notice he ordered exactly what I always did. He even texted me a video of some guy slipping on the ice near our building with the caption, "Eastwood Olympics." I found myself smiling too much, thinking too much. Then one night it happened. I woke up around 1 a.m. to the sound of thumping against the shared wall. Not loud, just rhythmic. And then his voice. Low, quiet, like he was talking to someone. I sat up in bed, heart thudding. Was he on the phone? But then, another sound. A soft moan. My mouth went dry. I pressed my ear against the wall like a total creep, just to confirm. Yeah, that was definitely Mason. And he wasn't alone. Or if he was very, very good at talking to himself. I laid back down, tried to ignore it, tried to breathe. But it was like my body betrayed me. Every noise sparked something hot and unwanted in my chest. Every muffled breath, every faint goddamn moan, it all stuck with me, even after it stopped. The next morning I looked like hell. I was getting coffee in the kitchen when there was a knock at the door. Of course it was him. He looked freshly showered, towel around his neck, and way too smug for someone who may or may not have been audibly jerking off at 1 a.m. "You good?" he asked. I blinked. "Yeah." "Why? You look like you didn't sleep." I stared at him, wondering if he knew, wondering if it was on purpose, if he wanted me to hear. His eyes scanned me slowly. Then he said, quieter, "You hear a lot through that wall?" My throat tightened. "Sometimes." He nodded once. "Interesting." And then he left. Just like that. After that night, I started hearing him more. Not like before. No more late-night moans or questionable thumps, but footsteps, laughter, the occasional dropped object. And once, faint humming through the shower wall. It was stupid how tuned in I'd become. Every little sound made me wonder what he was doing, who he was texting, whether he thought about that night at all. I didn't know if he meant to be heard, but part of me was starting to hope he did. Things between us shifted after that. He started texting more. Little things. Random memes. "You left your laundry card in the machine. You're lucky I'm a saint." "What the hell is that smell? Did you burn popcorn or perform a ritual?" I wanted to keep things casual, but one Saturday I was leaving my apartment when I found him standing in the hallway with a duffel bag. "Hey," he said. "You busy?" I blinked. No? Want to come to the gym with me?" "Guest pass." I stared at him. "You want me to work out with you?" He grinned. "Come on, for old time's sake. You used to pretend you didn't care about beating my mile time, but I saw how hard you pushed. That's because you were insufferable, and now I'm less insufferable." Debatable. Still, I went. The gym was just a few blocks away. The kind of place where everyone wore tank tops and wireless earbuds, and you could smell protein powder in the air. Mason handed me a guest pass and led me straight to the treadmills. We didn't say much at first, just ran. But after a mile or two, he looked over and said, "So, you seeing anyone?" I glanced at him, heartbeat already racing from the run. "Why?" He shrugged. "Just curious." I didn't answer right away. "No." He nodded, but his gaze lingered. "Me neither." I kept my eyes on the screen, but every part of me was aware of him. The way his shirt clung to his chest, the way he adjusted his hairband mid-run, even the stupid bottle he drank from like it was a photo shoot. After the gym, we grabbed smoothies. He paid without asking. I told myself it wasn't a date. Just two guys trying not to be enemies anymore. But when he walked me back to my door and stood there like he was waiting for something, I froze. "So," he said. "So," I repeated. He looked at me for a long second. "You know, you're a lot more fun now that we're not trying to destroy each other. Speak for yourself. I still want to destroy you at Mario Kart." He laughed, but then his voice softened. "Hey, can I ask you something?" "Yeah. That night, when you heard me, was that weird?" I swallowed hard. "A little." He nodded slowly, then looked me in the eye. "Was it too much?" It wasn't a joke. It wasn't even cocky. Just a quiet question, like he needed to know. I hesitated. Honestly, I didn't hate it. That answer hung between us like an open door. He took a step closer, barely. "I wasn't alone," he said. "That night," I nodded. "I figured." He paused. "But I wished I was." My breath caught. "What?" He shrugged, eyes searching mine. "Don't know. Just kept wondering what you'd think." "Why?" "Because," he said, voice lower now, "you've been in my head since the day I moved in." We stood there in silence, something thick and impossible filling the air. He stepped back, hand already reaching for his doorknob. "Anyway," he said, trying to sound casual, "see you around, neighbor." But I stopped him. "Mason," he turned. "You want to come in?" He looked at me for a second, then nodded. "Yeah, I do." He stepped into my apartment like he'd done it 100 times, like it wasn't a big deal. I followed behind him, heart pounding harder than after that run on the treadmill. Mason looked around for a second, taking in the space like it was suddenly unfamiliar, even though he'd been here before. For pizza, a beer, some dumb joke between neighbors. This felt different. I closed the door quietly behind us. Neither of us spoke. He walked toward the kitchen, brushing his hand along the edge of my counter like he was grounding himself. I stayed back near the entryway, watching him, unsure what to do with my hands, my thoughts, any of it. He turned around, leaned against the counter, and crossed his arms. "So now what?" I gave him a look. "You're the one who said I've been in your head." He tilted his head. "You said you didn't hate it." "I didn't." Silence again. Not awkward. Just full. His eyes scanned mine like he was waiting for permission, or a sign, or maybe just clarity. I wasn't sure I had any. "Okay," he said quietly. "Here's the truth." I raised an eyebrow. "I thought about you in high school. A lot. Not just the rivalry crap. Like, actually thought about you." That caught me off guard. I blinked. "You're serious?" He nodded. "I didn't know what to do with it. You were smart, funny, competitive as hell. It got under my skin in a way that messed me up." I moved closer, slowly. "You never said anything." "Because I didn't even know what I was feeling. And when I finally figured it out, you were gone." I stopped a few feet in front of him. "And now," he exhaled, "now I hear you breathing through the wall at night, and it makes me feel insane." I froze. "You hear me?" "Yeah," he said, looking down. "Not all the time. Just when it's quiet. When you're up late pacing, or typing, or when you laugh at something." "I didn't think you noticed." "I notice everything you do," he said, voice thick. I didn't know who moved first. Maybe both of us. But suddenly the space between us disappeared, and we were standing toe to toe. His breath was warm against my skin. He wasn't smirking now. There was no joke in his eyes. "You sure about this?" I asked, barely above a whisper. "No," he said, "but I've never wanted to be sure about something more." He leaned in slowly, giving me every chance to back away. I didn't. His lips brushed mine, tentative at first, like he wasn't sure how far to go. I kissed him back, soft and slow, the kind of kiss you give someone you've imagined for years but never thought you'd actually touch. It deepened, and I felt his hands slide up my arms, gripping gently, pulling me closer like he was afraid I might vanish. We kissed like we had time to make up for. Like high school never gave us the space to admit what we felt. Like maybe this wasn't just rivalry or curiosity, but something that had been waiting to happen for years. When we finally broke apart, we stood there, breathing in sync, foreheads nearly touching. "I don't know what this is," he said. "Me neither. But I want to find out." I nodded. "Then stay." He stayed. That night, we didn't sleep together, not in the way you'd think. We lay side by side on my bed, fully clothed, barely speaking. He listened to my breathing, I listened to his heartbeat. Our hands found each other under the covers, fingers intertwined like we were learning something foreign and familiar all at once. And through the thin wall between our apartments, the silence finally felt full. I don't know what I expected the next morning to feel like, but it wasn't this. Mason was still asleep when I woke up. On his side, one arm under the pillow, the other draped halfway across the bed like he forgot he wasn't alone in his own apartment. The sun came in through the blinds in soft, quiet stripes, catching the edge of his jaw and that stupid, messy hair he always pushed back with his hand when he was nervous. I watched him for a second longer than I should have, then carefully rolled out of bed. By the time I got back from brushing my teeth, he was sitting up, squinting like the sunlight had personally offended him. "You always wake up this early?" he asked, voice rough with sleep. I shrugged. "Only when a former rival steals my bed," he smirked, rubbing his eyes. "We've moved past the rival part, haven't we?" I said nothing, just tossed him a clean towel. "Shower's yours." He caught it one-handed and gave me a look. "You're acting real normal about all this. What do you want me to do, freak out?" "Maybe a little," he said, standing and stretching with zero shame. I turned away before I could stare too long. Bathroom's on the left. The next few days were, well, weird again. But not bad. He didn't bring it up, and neither did I. We didn't talk about what the night meant, or what we were, or if we were even something. But we saw each other more. Like, a lot more. I started cooking for two. He started leaving his stuff at my place. Water bottles, hoodies, even his spare set of keys one day. Just in case. I didn't mind. I told myself I didn't mind. But then something shifted. One night I knocked on his door around 10. I had a bottle of wine and a dumb documentary queued up. It wasn't a big deal. We'd done that a few times. But when the door opened, I stopped. He wasn't alone. A guy, some gym type, all shoulders and cologne, was sitting on Mason's couch, laughing, comfortable. Mason looked surprised to see me, and even more surprised when he saw what I was holding. "Hey," he said, "what's up?" I cleared my throat. "Nothing. I was just, never mind." I turned, fast, too fast. I don't know what burned more, my face or the feeling in my chest. "Wait," he called after me, but I didn't stop. I locked my door behind me and set the wine on the counter, untouched. The next morning, I didn't see him. Or the next day, or the day after that, he texted, once. Wasn't what it looked like. I didn't answer. I told myself I didn't care. We hadn't defined anything. We weren't dating. We hadn't even kissed again. Just one night. One moment. But that wall we shared? It felt different now. Quieter, emptier. And I hated how much I missed the sound of his laugh through it. I avoided him for almost a week. It shouldn't have been hard. We lived right next to each other. But somehow, we managed to orbit without colliding. I changed my gym hours. Used the back stairwell. Even timed my laundry runs like I was planning a heist. It was petty. And childish. But it felt safer than having to answer questions I didn't have answers to. Then Friday night came, and everything cracked. I was on my way back from the corner store, hoodie up, headphones in, trying not to think about how Mason's light was still on when I passed his door. I kept walking. I was halfway to my apartment when I heard it, his door opening behind me. "Oliver," he called out. I froze. I turned slowly, one foot still in retreat. He looked tired. Not just end-of-the-week tired, but worn down, like he hadn't been sleeping. His hair was messy, eyes dark under the soft glow of the hallway lights. "You've been dodging me." I shrugged. "I've been busy." "Bullshit." I said nothing. He stepped forward. Can I come in? I should have said no. Instead, I unlocked my door and let him inside. We stood in my living room for a second, neither of us speaking. The silence pressed in, familiar, but tenser than usual. He looked around like he expected something to be different. Maybe he hoped it would be. Nothing happened with that guy, he said finally. You don't owe me an explanation. Maybe not, he said, but I want to give you one. I sat on the armrest of the couch, arms crossed. Okay. He's a friend from my old gym, Mason said. We were supposed to catch up over drinks and, yeah, it ran late. But nothing happened. Nothing was going to happen. I stared at him, jaw tight. Why didn't you just tell me that night? Because you looked at me like I was a stranger again, like all the ground we'd gained just vanished. I didn't respond. He walked toward me, stopping just short. Do you know how hard it was for me to even say what I said to you? That night? About high school. About you. I know, I said quietly. He exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. I thought maybe you felt it too. I did, I admitted. I do. So what now? I looked up at him, and for the first time in days, I let myself really see him again, the vulnerability behind the confidence, the way his lips parted like he was holding something back. I don't know, I said, but I hated not hearing you through that wall. He smiled at that, just barely. Yeah? Yeah? He took another step forward, slow and careful. I meant it, you know. I wished I'd been alone that night. Because I wasn't thinking about him. I was thinking about you. My pulse quickened. I haven't stopped, he added, quieter now. I stood. We were inches apart. You want to try again? I asked. His smile grew, softer this time. I've wanted to for a while, and then he kissed me. Not like the first time. This one was fuller, warmer, grounded in something more than curiosity. It felt like a promise. Like finally, we'd found a version of each other that wasn't hiding behind sarcasm or old-school grudges. When we pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. So what do we call this now? He whispered. I don't know, I said, but it's not rivalry anymore. He laughed, low and honest. Thank God. The thing no one tells you about crossing that invisible line with someone you used to compete with is that the chemistry doesn't go away. It just changes direction. Mason and I still pushed each other, teased each other, challenged each other, but now it was playful, warm, intimate. Flirty, too. Stupidly flirty. He started showing up with coffee in the mornings. I'd roll my eyes, but I always took it. I started leaving his hoodies in my laundry instead of returning them. He never asked for them back. We still had our separate apartments, technically, but the wall between 406 and 407 may as well have been a doorway by now. Sometimes he stayed at mine. Sometimes I stayed at his. More often than not, we just stayed together. One night, about 3 weeks after everything shifted, I found him on my couch reading one of my books. Barefoot, hoodie on, legs stretched across the cushions like he owned the place. He didn't even look up when I walked in. I think I'm falling in love with you, he said casually, flipping the page. I froze. What? He glanced over. Oh, was I supposed to wait for a big moment? A beach trip or a dramatic kiss in the rain? I walked toward him slowly, heart slamming. You can't just drop that like it's nothing. Why not? He shrugged, still annoyingly calm. It's not nothing, but it doesn't have to be complicated. I stood in front of him, unsure whether to punch him or kiss him. He looked up, a grin teasing the edge of his mouth. Too soon? I shook my head. No, it's unexpected. He sat up and patted the seat next to him. Sit. Say something before I start spiraling. I sat down, then leaned in and kissed him. It was soft this time. Not nervous, not urgent, just a quiet confirmation that I felt it too. Whatever this thing was between us, it had grown into something real. When we pulled apart, he whispered, So you're in? I'm in, I said. Just one condition. Anything. You don't get to win all the time. He grinned. You can try. And I did. I challenged him to Mario Kart. I beat him at trivia. He beat me at push-ups. I beat him at cooking. He beat me at guessing movie plots within the first 5 minutes. We kept score, but it didn't matter. Not really. Because somewhere between the wall we used to yell through and the bed we now shared, Mason Blake stopped being my rival and became something I never saw coming.